I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Okay, I know that you're not here to hear me sing, but I thank you for indulging me. Those words were from Whitney Houston's 1985 remake of The Greatest Love of All. And I feel that they are pertinent to my talk today. My name is Jimmy McClain, and I was born to become a statistic. I was born to an 18-year-old single mother that was a high school graduate. My mother had lots of strong points, but academics was not one of those. So college was not an option for her. Even if she had the aptitude, her family could not afford it, so she entered the workforce. My mother never made above $30,000 per year, so I was always receiving free and reduced lunch. Thanks to summer programs that I participated in during my youth, I did not become a statistic. For the next few minutes, I will be talking about the phenomenon of summer learning loss, phenomenon of prisons being built based on reading scores, and some simple vices that Americans can give up that will provide more money towards education. Summer learning loss is a phenomenon where young people lose academic skills over the summer. This is one of the most significant causes of the achievement gap between lower and higher income youth, and one of the strongest contributors to the high school dropout rate. In his article on December 2010, a $5 children's book versus a $47,000 jail cell, choose one, Steve Cohen, a Forbes magazine contributor and former co-chair of the Clinton White House Literacy Task Force, the Prescription for Reading Partnership, stated that he heard Texas uses fourth grade reading scores to project the number of prisons cells they're going to need 10 years later. This statement is not only attributed to Texas, but all states within the United States. He stated, though I later learned that the formula for projecting the number of jail cells was more nuanced, it was not inaccurate. He found that 60% of America's prison inmates are illiterate, and 85% of all juvenile offenders have reading problems. The National Assessment of Educational Progress reports that fully 67% of American fourth graders can't read at the fourth grade proficiency level, and 33% score below the basic competency level. In 2016, about 50.4 million elementary and secondary students and an estimated over 119,000 libraries of all kinds were in the US. Conversely, there are 2.3 million people in over 6,000 versions of prisons. There are 2.3 libraries per 1,000 students and 2.6 prisons per 1,000 incarcerated people. The National Center for Education Statistics reports that the total expenditures for public elementary and secondary schools in the United States amounted to over $600 billion in 2012 and 2013. or over $12,000 per public school student enrolled in the fall of that year. Conversely, the annual average taxpayer cost is over $31,000 per inmate, with New York State the most at $60,000. The National Summer Learning Association reports that more than 25 million low-income public school students in America and their families struggle to find and afford to eat and have a safe place to be. Every summer, low-income youth lose 2 to 3 months in reading, while their higher income peers make slight gains. Most youth lose about 2 months of math skills during that same period. These reading and math losses add up. By 5th grade, summer learning loss can leave low-income students 2.5 to 3 years behind their peers. Research shows that while gaps in student achievement remain relatively constant during the school year, the gaps widen significantly during the summer. A survey from the National Summer Learning Association of 500 teachers found that over 66% of the teachers have to spend 3 to 4 weeks reteaching student course material at the beginning of the year, while 24% of the teachers spend at least 5 to 6 weeks reteaching material during that same period. The NSLA's website states the following: research spanning over 100 years shows that students typically score lower on standardized tests at the end of the summer vacation than they do on the same test at the beginning of the summer. A significant amount of the teachers surveyed by the NSLA agreed that such summer learning loss could be reduced if students participated in a summer learning program. Summer learning programs have taken a back seat to more mainstream education reform efforts. Rather than rethink how summers could be used to support student success, policymakers have devoted their time and their money to efforts to improve the traditional school day and year. While many believe that the current school calendar is a relic of our agrarian past, that's not entirely the truth. In fact, summer vacation has taken many forms throughout history. Summers have gone from being part of the school year with allowance for spring and fall planting and harvesting to summer schools that primarily serve to remediate for academic credit or advancement to the next grade. In July 2016, a new analysis by the U.S. Department of Education found that state and local spending on prisons and jails has increased at triple the rate of funding for public education for preschool through 12th grade education in the last 3 decades. The trends in state and local expenditures on corrections and education report noted that 23 states increased per capita spending on corrections at more than double the rate of increases in per pupil primary to 12th grade spending. And 7 states increased their budgets more than 5 times as fast as they did their allocations for primary and 12th grade public education. Former Secretary of Education John B. King Jr. said, "Budgets reflect our values, and the trends revealed are a reflection of our nation's priorities that should be revisited. For far too long, systems in this country have continued to perpetuate inequity. We must choose to make more investment in our children's future. We need to invest more in prevention than in punishment, to invest more in schools and not prisons. The United States has only 5% of the world's population, yet more than 20% of the world's incarcerated population. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 2/3 of state prison inmates have not completed high school. One study also shows young black men between the ages of 20 and 24 who do not have a high school diploma or an equivalent credential have a greater chance of being incarcerated rather than employed. Researchers have estimated that a 10% increase in high school graduation rates results in a 9% criminal arrest rate decline. Former senior advisor to President Obama, Valerie Jarrett, said, "Mass incarceration does not make us safer. Yet for 3 decades, our country has prioritized spending on prisons instead of classrooms. We can no longer afford this failure to invest in opportunity, only to lock up people once they've dropped out of school and turned to crime. These misguided priorities make us less safe and betray our values. And it is time we came together as a country to invest in our people and their capacity to contribute to society." The United States spends more than $80 billion annually on corrections. The department's new report suggests that a better path forward would be increasing investments in education from early childhood through college, which could improve skills, opportunities, and career outcomes for at-risk children and youth, particularly if the additional funds are focused on high poverty schools. Investing more in increasing school success for disadvantaged children and youth could reduce disciplinary issues and reverse the school to prison pipeline. The Bureau of Justice Statistics studies have found high rates of recidivism among released prisoners. One study tracked over 400,000 prisoners in 30 states after their release from prison in 2005. The researchers found that within 3 years of release, over 67% of released prisoners were rearrested. Within 5 years of release, over 76% of released prisoners were rearrested. And of those prisoners who were rearrested, more than 56% were arrested by the end of the first year. RAND researchers examined the value that taxpayers as a result of increases in student levels of education. Using statistical modeling methods and data from a nationally representative sample of individuals included in their 2002 survey of income and program participation, they analyzed how increases in an individual's educational attainment are associated with tax revenues, expenditures and revenues for social support and insurance programs, and spending for prisons and jails. The researchers examined 4 levels of educational attainment: some high school graduation, some college, and college graduation. They found that an increase in a student's educational attainment, for example, completing high school rather than dropping out, is associated with substantial value for taxpayers over time. This study demonstrated that there is a value to taxpayers from programs or policies that result in greater educational attainment, even if the taxpayers do not have children in public school. The RAND study showed that more highly educated people contribute more in taxes, that those with more education draw less from social support programs, that more highly educated people are less likely to incur incarceration costs, and that raising students' levels of education yields net benefits to the public budget. A March 2014 USA Today article, 20 Ways Americans Are Blowing Their Money, pointed out how we as Americans have wasteful money habits. Most telling were the amounts of money wasted from alcohol, tobacco, and coffee. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American consumer dedicates 1% of all of their spending to alcohol, or about $1 of every $100. When absorbing this information, consider this. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says Americans may not necessarily be drinking out more, rather, they are being charged more. Between the years of 1982 and 2011, there was a 79% increase in alcohol pricing in restaurants and bars, adjusted by inflation. Tobacco products are expensive by themselves, let alone with tax added. In New York, where taxes on tobacco are high, low-income smokers spend approximately 1/4 of their income on cigarettes. The national average, though less expensive, is still surprising. 14% of Americans' incomes are spent on cigarettes, rounding out to roughly 1/7 of their total income. According to a recent survey of American workers by Accounting Principles, Americans who regularly buy coffee throughout the week spend on average over $1,000 on coffee annually. These are very simple vices that could bridge the gap on education. Frederick Douglass said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." Thank you.